The owner of Brutal Iron Gym. I'm here for a video today to discuss kind of a common problem, and this comes up quite a bit with like sometimes members, but definitely like online questions. Is somebody will kind of email in, or they'll ask me, they'll say, hey, I'm working really hard and I'm not growing. So basically they're going to say, like, you know, I've been training this way, I've been eating this way, and I'm just not getting much results. So kind of general topic in here is like working hard but not growing. So this video is specifically more towards muscle mass. So if a person's trying to get bigger and they've been training hard, they think they've been eating hard, and they're just not getting bigger. So that's the idea of this video. So it's not going to really cover fat loss or like strength gains. It's mostly about muscle mass. So just to let you know. So when we look at it, there's generally there's three things I kind of tell a person in my response. So when somebody says they're working hard but they're not growing. So usually the first mistake they're making is nutrition. So I can speak from kind of an education background and definitely from a personal background. So I graduated high school at about 165 pounds, and it was like a soft, kind of like pudgy fat, kind of, it wasn't a good looking 165, certainly no abs. So now I'm sitting around 290. I'm not going to say I have abs, but not too fat. So I've been able to put on a good amount of size in my lifting career so far. And these are kind of the three things that I had to do in order to be able to gain that 120, 125 pounds over the last, like, I guess 10, 12 years or so. So we're going to kind of go through this as like an introduction to each topic, and then kind of give you guys some food for thought and kind of let you look back at your own habits and see if there's ways you can improve based on the information in this video. So the first topic we have is nutrition, and that's usually where everyone's messing up. So they'll be training really hard and they're not going to be eating enough. They'll say they are eating. Chances are they're probably eating more than they were, but it's still not enough. So the first thing we want to look at is if they want to have more muscle, they're going to have to weigh more. So muscle has weight. So if they're sitting at 175, 180 pounds, they train for 6 months and they're still 175 or still 180 pounds, some of that same range, if they're the same number, then chances are they're not getting bigger. So if you're going to get more muscle on your body, you're going to have to weigh more. So that's just the way it works. So one of the analogies I kind of use to kind of correlate how the importance of food with growth is kind of the analogy of building a house. So when you come into the gym and you work really hard, like that's the stimulus in order to build new muscle. That tells your body it needs to build new muscle, but you also have to have material to build that new muscle with. So kind of the way of thinking of it is, if I want to build a house, I have to have workers and I have to have bricks. So I have the workers that'll do the work for me, but they have to use something. They have to have something to build that house with, and that would be the bricks. So when you come in and work out, that's like your workers. It gives you that stimulus to build new muscle. And then food is like bricks. So food gives your body the material to build the new muscle with, the material to build a new house. So a lot of times people come in, they're talking about the perfect training program, talking about how often they come in and lift, but that's just half the process. So they still need the food component. So, and that's what we want to kind of cover. So the main reason why most people don't grow is because they're not eating enough. And again, like I said, you'll say I'm eating all the time, or I'm eating more, but it's still not enough. If you're not growing, it's not enough. That's the answer. So in my process, like in terms of trying to gain size over the years, so I've done diets where I was, like I did one diet, for example, where I sustained a 5,000 calorie diet for 30 days in a row. That's a lot of work, and that was actually fairly clean foods. It was through like lean meats, a lot of oats, like protein shakes mixed in. So I did have some little like side cheats here and there of like pizza or ice cream or something, but that would have been after I already met my goal for the day. So it was kind of like a bonus kind of thing just to get extra calories in. So I've done several different styles of diets over the years, but what it came down to is when I wanted to grow more, I had to eat more, and that was kind of a very consistent thing. So that's what we want to look at. And when we come down here, one of the best ways, kind of a quick little just answer for you, is to use a tracking system. One of the systems I use with my clients is called MyFitnessPal. So you can go to like www.myfitnesspal, that's P-A-L, .com, and they have an internet website you can use to track your info, and then they also have apps on like cell phones and stuff. But what it allows you to do is put in the foods that you ate and the serving sizes, and it'll calculate the calories for you. It'll calculate grams of fat, grams of carbs, grams of protein, sodium, sugar intake, kind of a little bit of everything. And what you're mostly looking for when you're trying to build size is you're looking for calories. So there is a certain amount of protein we want. For example, you might hear like people say you want to have a gram per pound of protein. That's a pretty good place to start. So that's kind of my general rule. How I kind of do it is, if I currently weigh, say, 290 pounds like I do, I'm going to be eating around 290 grams of protein per day, and then the rest of my calories can come from carbs and fats. So I do generally tend to stay with fats in kind of times away from my workouts. So maybe early morning or late at night I'll have more fats rather than carbs, and then I have a lot more carbs around my workout. But really it's not going to matter too much whether you have fats or carbs. That's a really small detail. So the biggest picture is getting your calories up. So what you're aiming for is you're going to use that MyFitnessPal or some kind of tracking system, so that way you know for a fact every single day you're hitting a certain calorie amount. So when people say, oh, I'm eating all the time, or I eat a lot of food, or this or that, they probably do for 1 or 2 days, and they slack off for a day or two. Maybe they'll eat relatively high Monday through Thursday, and then Friday night they kind of skip a meal or two, then go out drinking with their buddies, or just kind of start traveling on the weekends doing this and that. So they're kind of messing up Saturday and Sunday. They're not getting a lot of food, and then they'll kind of only get half of a day on Friday. So usually people, when they say, like, I'm eating all the time, it's actually not. So they're probably just doing it most of the time. And that's where like having something that's concrete numbers, like a tracking system, can tell you for a fact whether or not you're eating a certain number of calories every single day. So it doesn't mean like you can't make mistakes here or there, but if you want to grow and you want to grow as quickly as you can, then you have to have your calories up every single day. So what you're aiming for, a certain calorie number, it's hard to say, for person X needs to eat X number of calories. So one of the better ways to kind of track it is muscular growth does take time to happen. So you're not going to put on 20 pounds of muscle in a week. So it just doesn't work that way. If it did, everybody that ever read a magazine would be jacked already. So what we're looking for is a good clean rate of growth is anywhere from 4 to 8 pounds per month. So you're kind of looking at this like stringing together a couple of weeks and then looking at the general trend of those weeks. So if you look at 4 weeks, for example, you should gain 1 to 2 pounds per week for 4 weeks. So that would be a good goal to have, is don't overanalyze anything. Just do what you're supposed to do for 4 weeks first, then see what results you get. So if you try to grow as much as you can in 1 week and then you're disappointed if you only put 2 pounds on, that's actually a successful week. So you want to make sure your expectations match reality. So the reality is that you can gain 1 to 2 pounds per week for a 4 to 8 pound per month gain, and that'll look decent on most people. If you gain any faster than that, you're probably just getting a lot of body fat. That's going to be a pain in the butt to take off later on. If you're not gaining 4 pounds per month, then you're just taking the process too slow and you need to ramp it up a little bit. So having that window of 4 to 8, if you're already, if you're really lean, okay, you have abs showing, you have some veins a little bit everywhere, then you could probably eat a lot more and push more towards that 8 pounds per month kind of goal. But if you are kind of a little bit soft, maybe don't have a bunch of detail, you want to hold off and just go for the 4 pounds per month, so that way you don't accumulate too much fat along the process. So, but that would be the goal, is using MyFitnessPal or some tracking system to make sure you have a certain number of calories. And then that certain number of calories should result in a net gain of 1 to 2 pounds per week. So you can generally take your body weight you are currently right now and times it by 13 to 15, and that'll give you a decent calorie range to start from. But you will have to modify from that. Like I said, it's just a general range. So if you have no clue where to start, Take your body weight you are now times 13 to 15, somewhere in that range. Then start eating that number of calories per day. Track that with the tracking system, and then see at the end of the month if you're in that 4 to 8 range, 4 to 8 pounds per month gain. So if you're over 8, slow down on those calories, back it off a little bit. If you're under 4, ramp those calories up. So then the last thing we have, it says eat anything, then refine. And what that means is the most important thing is getting your calories in. So if you're afraid to eat, like say, like dirty foods or bad foods, and you're so afraid of eating anything bad that you're under your calorie goal, then that's a waste of time. So you got to get to that calorie goal first, and then you can kind of refine your foods. So very often what limits people when they're trying to do these calories is they're just going to say they're full all the time, they're not hungry. So first of all, anytime you're making a change in your body is going to be grumpy about it. It might not play along all the time. So whether or not you're hungry doesn't matter. You have your goal, you know you have to eat, so you eat. So I've actually kind of force-fed myself at many times in the process of trying to gain weight. One time actually I was trying to drink a protein shake with oats in it before I went into a college classroom, and ended up throwing up outside the building because I was trying to force it in, and my body got grumpy enough to where it threw it up. So the most annoying part of that was I knew I'd still have to make up those calories later on. So after class, I had to go back and get extra food. So, so I have been to the point where you're force feeding yourself, and that's just part of the process. So it shouldn't feel necessarily that you're going to be force feeding yourself all the time. So there's always that wonderful balance in the middle. So, but are you going to be happy and hungry for every meal? No. It is going to be forced. So you have to kind of start with what you can get in, and then tell yourself or force yourself every week or every 2 weeks to force into more. So say you think you need to eat 3,000, but you're full at 2,700. Well, try that for a week or two, and then force yourself the following week to move up to 2,800. Then in 2 weeks, move up to 2,900. So you want to force progression, whether you like it or not. But do you have to go from 2,700 to 3,000? Probably not. You can take some steps to get there. So, but again, you want to eat anything. So even if that's pizza, even if it's drinking calories. So like for example, if I'm super busy with training clients, I tend to drink chocolate milk between clients. So they'll be grumpy to hear that because they don't get it. But it helps me keep my calories up. It has some protein in there. So, and with 290 pounds, stand on my feet, run around, changing weights for 4 hours in a row, I'm going to burn right through those calories. So that helps me keep those calories coming in. So, but that will be the idea, is start with any kind of food you can get in to match your calorie goal, and then try to refine and eat healthier and cleaner foods. So that's the first component, is nutrition. So if you want to grow more, you have to eat more. That's just the basics, that's how it works. So the second thing we have here in red is tracking your lifting numbers. So this was another big mistake I made when I was younger, is I would go down into my parents' basement, was I first had my weight set, and I'd do curls and, you know, tricep press downs, bench press, all that stuff all night, you know, and I did it the next night, and the next night, and the next night. And what happened was, within the first year or two of training, I might have gotten a little stronger in the first, say, 6 months. So I had a little bit of like beginner gains, is kind of what it's considered, is when somebody first starts lifting, that newness of the stimulus will result in some strength increase, some growth increase. But what happens is after that 6 months, it might be a year or two later, and they're still kind of benching the same weights, they're still curling the same weights, you're still kind of doing the same weight. So if I started my lifting career benching 135, and a year later I'm only at 155, that's not enough. So if I want to get bigger, I also have to get stronger. So there's tons of examples of people who are super strong that are not that muscular, but most likely they actually train for that specific purpose, where they're doing some kind of sport where they're in a weight class, so they're trying to train specifically for a neurological response to get stronger, but not a muscular response of getting bigger. So generally speaking, if you get stronger, you will get bigger. So, and the reason why is, take bench press for example. If my current 1 rep max is 185, I can maybe do 135 for sets of 5, maybe 195 pounds for sets of 10. So 95 pounds for sets of 10 is low. That's a low amount of weight. So that's not going to create a lot of stimulus and a lot of muscle damage when I'm doing that. But if I take my 1 rep max up to where instead of 95 pounds for sets of 10, I can now do 150 pounds for sets of 10, that's going to be more stimulus and more work that my body has to do, so therefore it would have adapted to that increased stimulus. So if your 1 rep max goes up, chances are your 10 rep max will also go up. So if you're a bodybuilder, you're going to be training mostly in the range between, let's do a broad range of say 6 to 15, maybe 6 to 20 reps. So if you're doing, so for example, if my 10 reps that I normally do is like say dumbbell presses, I normally use 60s for 10 reps. If I can get strong enough to then use 80s for 10 reps, I will get bigger. So if you get stronger and then apply that strength to the bodybuilding ranges, you will get bigger from that extra strength. So what you want to look for is if I want to have a new body, I have to have new stimulus. And part of creating new stimulus is getting stronger. So I do suggest people start training kind of the big 3 lifts is squat, bench, and deadlift. So will you find bodybuilders who look awesome and amazing and they might not deadlift? Yes. So that does exist. It does happen. So, but do they probably do some form of deadlift like a stiff leg deadlift or Romanian deadlift, which is a short range top end of the motion deadlift? They probably do some variation of it. So, but do they do really heavy off the floor deadlifts? Maybe not. Maybe they're afraid of hurting their back and their career is based on aesthetics. So if they can do a variation of a deadlift that allows them to grow but doesn't use all that weight, they're probably going to go ahead and use that, especially on the top end pros. So if you're looking at somebody who weighs 300 pounds with abs and they say they don't deadlift, they might not deadlift now, but did they deadlift in order to get to 300 pounds? Most likely. So that's something where you want to think of is if you want to be big, you got to lift big. So if you start doing squats, bench, and deadlift, it will get you stronger kind of everywhere in your body. And then like we said, you can take that strength and apply it back to bodybuilding rep ranges. So you do want to start training squat, bench, and deadlift. So there's tons of starter kind of helper powerlifting programs. And powerlifting is a sport in which you compete where you do the heaviest 1 rep max of a squat, followed by the heaviest 1 rep max of a bench press, then the heaviest 1 rep max of a deadlift. So, do you have to necessarily do 1 rep maxes? No, but if you train to improve your 1 rep max, you will get stronger. So one program I usually recommend to beginners is, it's called Wendler's 531. So it's Jim Wendler, and that's Wendler. So Wendler. So Jim Wendler 531. That's a really simple, basic powerlifting program that can get you started. So, and it'll get you stronger on the main 3 lifts. It's really friendly for beginners. So just because the frequency of the lifts is high, and that allows you to get better at the skill of the lifts. So that would be a place to start looking at. So it's Wendler's 531. And then in his program already, he has templates for adding bodybuilding work along with those powerlifting programs. So that would be a great program to kind of start at if you're interested in getting into the big 3 lifts, but you're not sure how often to squat or what rep ranges. That program will help. So the next thing we have here, the next component we have, is you have to increase your intensity of your workouts. So if I only ever train X hard, I'm only ever going to grow to that amount. And if I want to grow more, I have to have a bigger stimulus. I have to have a bigger reason to grow. So your body's only going to adapt to what you make it, what the kind of stimulus or the stress you put on it. So if you put more stress, it'll adapt more. So some of the ways we have, really basic ways of improving our intensity, and this would be on all lifts, maybe not like a side lateral raise, you know, or a bicep curl, maybe not some small exercises, but if you're doing dumbbell presses like dumbbell rows, cable rows, bent over rows, so big muscles like back and chest presses, so you're doing leg press, hack squat, you know, some big movements. So those big movements, you want to be increasing your intensity. So a couple of ways we think about it is most people will think of increasing their intensity by adding more weight to the lift. That's great, and that's what you want to try to do, but are you going to be able to add 5 pounds to a lift every month for the rest of your life? No, it doesn't work that way. So eventually strength will kind of plateau and it'll have a slower increase over time. So adding weight to an exercise is one way to increase intensity. Another way is to just do more reps of the same weight. So if I currently can do dumbbell presses for 60 pounds for 10 reps, if I can all of a sudden do 60 pounds for 12 reps, that's an increased stimulus and I should grow a little bit from that. So we want to try to add weight to exercise. We also want to try to do more reps with the same weight. Another way you can do increase your intensity is to add sets to your workout. So if you currently do 3 sets of 10 of something, try starting to do 4 sets of 10. and that little bit of extra stimulus, that extra set, will create more work. It'll create more opportunity for your body to grow. So again, you can increase weight, you can increase reps, or you can increase the number of sets that you do with a certain weight and certain reps. And then the last thing you can do is decrease your rest intervals or your time, recovery time. So if I normally, most people, when you're kind of newish to bodybuilding, they're probably not tracking their rest periods at all. So you do want to start paying attention to how much time you have in between your sets. So if you're doing dumbbell presses and in between each set you're BSing with friends and it's 5 or 6 minutes, you're just wasting time. So you're going to say to yourself, man, I'm in the gym for an hour or an hour and a half. Yeah, but you're only doing 20 minutes of work. So you want to actually pay attention to your time and keep those rest intervals short. Not so short you can't breathe. So we don't want to turn the weight training into a cardio session. But you should have a consistent time and be paying attention to how much time you're taking in between sets. So roughly for a bodybuilder, if you're doing like bigger heavy movements, maybe 2 minutes of rest, maybe up to 3 minutes. If you're doing small movements like lateral raises, bicep curls, maybe 1 to 2 minutes rest in between is fine. So one way to think of it is if you train with a partner, you should do your set, they should do their set, and then you should pretty much jump right back on. So that's kind of a good pace to have. So I've done that over the years when I had training partners. We might say 15, 20 seconds in between each. Like if he's transitioning, getting up off the piece of equipment, I'm sitting down, he might say how it went. He might say, hey, I was doing this and it felt really good. You might want to try that. But that's it. That's the extent of the conversation, and then the next person goes. So again, kind of bigger movements, maybe 2 to 3 minutes. Smaller movements, maybe 1 to 2 minutes. And then, like we said, a way of increasing intensity is if you're used to 3 minutes in between your dumbbells, like sets of, say, dumbbell presses, and all of a sudden you cut it from 3 minutes down to 2 minutes, that will feel more intense. You'll have a harder time staying at the weight you normally do. It'll feel more difficult to your body, and that'll create a stimulus for it to grow. So those are kind of the 4 basic ways. There's more out there, but those are 4 basic ways to increase intensity, is either adding more weight to an exercise, doing more reps with the same weight, doing more sets with the same weight and the same rep scheme. So again, if you're doing 3 sets of 10 of 100 pounds, try 4 sets of 10 of 100 pounds. And then the last one is to decrease your rest interval. So, and that'll help kind of all those methods will help increase intensity in your training. So again, the first thing you want to look at is nutrition, make sure you're eating enough. The second thing is you want to make sure you track your numbers in your training. So you want to make sure you're getting stronger. Getting stronger at big lifts, you want to make sure that over, the course of a couple months, you're getting that 5 extra pounds, you're getting that extra couple reps. So you want to make sure that there's some improvement on your lifts. So the last thing we have here is mental toughness. So this is kind of a tough category because everybody wants to think they're a badass and that they're working as hard as they can. But I'll be the first one to tell you and the first one to admit that what I thought was difficult when I first started lifting weights is now probably my warm-up. So it was definitely one of those things where when I was 16 in my parents' basement and I'd be training to the point where I threw up, now, like when I do that type of intensity or that amount of work, it's not enough now. So like in order to get a bigger, stronger body, I had to create bigger, stronger stimulus and then try to mentally grow to adapt to that stimulus. So that's kind of like we say right here, it says test your limits. So roughly, as a real basic way of thinking of it is, at least once a month you should do a workout that like by the time you finish, like you had to talk yourself through it, it was horrible, you were going to quit halfway. Maybe by the end of the workout you're so sick you have to lay on the floor for 20 minutes. So maybe by the end of the workout, it's just one of those things where like you were so proud of the workout because it was so new, so amazing, and you want to kind of tell everybody. So there should be something every month, at least once a month, where you have that type of feeling where you really tested yourself and you were able to meet the challenge of that test. So if you come in the gym and you're tired all the time, you do the same stuff all the time, you work hard and your muscles burn, but they don't burn more than they did last week, they don't burn more than they did last month, then you're not going to grow. So you have to become mentally stronger if you want to get physically stronger and physically bigger. So over the years, I'm not recommending any of this, just to give you a concept, is like throwing up in workouts. I've thrown up, I don't even know how many times, so dozens and dozens of times. So where you're training so hard that your body just gets upset and hits the eject button and you have to lay on the floor for a while. So I trained with my mom to get her ready for a bodybuilding show. She's done 3 bodybuilding shows over the age of 50, which is awesome. So, and she's actually trained herself hard enough to where she's thrown up before. So, and that's how intense she trains. That's how badly she wanted the goal, was she was willing to train till her body, like till she found her body's limits, and then even push past it. So I've had one workout where I actually broke my collarbone while I was bench pressing. So it was related to an old injury, but in the middle of the bench press I kind of heard a pop and my shoulder got kind of unstable. So I knew something was wrong, but I was frustrated by that. I was mad that my body wasn't able to keep up. So I finished the workout, did dumbbell flies, dumbbell presses, we did some other stuff. I got to the point where I was sick and thrown up in the parking lot, drove to the hospital, found out I broke my collarbone, and had to get surgery to put metal plates in it. So, but at the time of the injury, I was so mad that I was going to be missing the rest of the workout for the injury that I just finished the workout anyhow. I didn't want to miss it. So I knew if it was a true break, that it was going to take some type of time to recover. So I wanted to make sure I got one last good workout in before I had to have the surgery. So I know that sounds insane to most people, but that's it's kind of the mentality you need. Like, you need to have a mentality where you're going to be pushing your body and forcing it to grow. So I'm not telling you to break your bones while you're working out. So, but you do want to have that drive, that desire to, if your body starts to kind of argue with you, that you're going to tell it to shut up and you're going to keep pushing. So I would not push as hard as I have over the years. So like I've broke my collarbone, like I've torn, like had partial tears, like 13, 14 muscles. I've torn some ligaments. So I've definitely beat the hell out of my body in order to get where I'm at. I always kind of tell with people is like, would I take those injuries back? Would I take back the physical component like that I had to deal with, like the rehab or some of the nagging things I have now, like annoyances, like injury-wise? Sure, I'd take the physical part back, but the mental victories that I had from being able to push through those injuries and push till I even had an injury, I would keep that. So I like the amount of mental toughness that I've gained over the years of lifting, and it's also correlated to other areas of my life, like it's mentally tough in business, mentally tough in life in general. So the lessons you learn in the gym or under the barbell definitely correlate to the rest of your life. So if you can become, a badass and learn how to deal with things in the gym, you'll be a badass and know how to deal with things outside of the gym. So that's a little bit of the history of what I've been through to get where I'm at. So like I said, I'm not suggesting you break bones and tear muscles, but you do have to be willing to put in the work, that if those things were to happen, you're putting yourself out there. So you want to protect yourself, but at the same time, if you're too cautious, you're never going to grow, you're never going to find your limits. So when we say test your limits, we'd like you to come up to them and hopefully not cross them, but you do have to find out where they are. So, and then the next thing we have down here is some YouTube videos and things I've found over the years that I found motivating. So if you're trying to mentally toughen up and you want to kind of learn how to be a badass and like kind of push yourself. So one YouTube channel that I really like, it's Bodybuilding Rev, R-E-V, so short for Bodybuilding Revolution. If you go to Bodybuilding Rev on YouTube, they have things called strength challenges, and they'll have 2 athletes kind of compete against each other in a workout, and it's just awesome to see how hard they work, how hard they'll push themselves. So they'll get to the point where they might throw up, so and they kind of go to the lane on the floor, but it shows you if that's how hard they're working to get where they are, that's how hard you have to work. So if you want to see what a hard workout looks like, if you want to see how hard you need to train to be the best, that's going to be a good YouTube channel to check out. So again, it's Bodybuilding Rev, and you can check out their Strength Wars videos. So another video I really like is by Brandon Lilly. So you can type that name in, Brandon, and it's O-N at the end. So Brandon Lilly, L-I-L-L-Y. And type in genetics. So he has a real good, I wouldn't necessarily call it a rant, but it's a really good video about the role that genetics play in determining where you get to. And it isn't genetics, it's hard work. That's the determining factor is hard work. So that's a really good video. I actually have the audio of it in my MP3, like my iPod I'd play while I work out. So that's one of my songs, quote unquote, is his video genetics. So another one we have is Dave Tate, and that's T-A-T-E, Dave Tate. He has a video called Into the Void. That's another good motivational video. Kind of gives you that mental mindset you're going to need. The last one we have is Mark Bell. So again, you can type in Mark Bell, B-E-L-L, and the title, don't want to say in the video because I'm trying to be politically correct here, but it's F your elbow. So you can figure out that part. So just type in your elbow. So Mark Bell, your elbow, and you definitely want to put that one like headphones in on that video. So you can tell by the title, not safe for work, not safe for children kind of video. So but it's going to get you psyched up, going to get you pumped up. So so those are some YouTube sources where if you're trying to get mentally tougher, these are some ways to kind of get you sparked in that direction and get you some kind of words of wisdom for people who've been where you want to get to. So that's the idea of if you're training really hard and you say you're eating a lot but you're not growing, these are the 3 things you want to look into. So the first was nutrition. You got to make sure you eat more if you want to grow more. The second thing was training. If you work on getting stronger, you will get bigger. And the third one is mental toughness. So you just have to learn to push yourself a little bit more. So hopefully this video was helpful. If you have any questions, feel free to email us. The email for the gym is brutalirongym. And that's brutalirongym, all small letters, all one word, @gmail.com. So, and I'll be happy to help you. So thank you.